And welcome back. We're so happy to be here again today with William McKissock from Schooley Mitchell. And we are going to be talking today about another fascinating topic inside of expense reduction with the within organizations and businesses. I'm always so excited to talk to William about this and hear more about what he has to say. Just before we get to that, though, real quickly, make sure you're taking a look at the YouTube channel, and you can go back and see our past episodes where William has shared so much about expense savings and about what it can do for a business and for an organization. And it's always so exciting to be here with you, William. And I'm happy to be here again today with you.
Me too. Again, thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to say something about what I do. I'll give a quick overview for people watching the video that Schooley Mitchell is North America's largest independent expense reduction company. We help businesses reduce costs in specific areas, and those areas are telecom, credit card processing, shipping, waste, e-signature, utilities, and fuel. So those are the categories. We audit them individually for a client, and we look for savings, and we talk to the vendors, the incumbent vendors. We talk to every vendor we feel we need to talk to on behalf of the client, and we produce an audit report, which is free. We don't charge any money for doing that audit. And in that audit report, we'll show the client where they're spending the money, having looked at their billing statements and their contracts, and we'll show them our recommendations. And the recommendations will always include what it looks like to stay where you are with your incumbent vendor and other options that are there. Client gets to decide if they want to move forward with those or not. If they don't move forward with any of our recommendations, they don't owe us any money. They don't pay us. And likewise, if we don't actually find savings, they don't pay us. There's only two outcomes of working with us. We'll either confirm you've got the best prices and services possible for free at free audit, or we find you savings. Our fees are a share of savings found.
Very interesting. I love hearing what you do, and I really do encourage our viewers to go back and look at some of the past episodes that we've recorded, because they're always so interesting and just fascinating to hear you talk about this from many different facets of expense management and certainly driving the profit and loss statement, which is what we're here to talk about today. And it's interesting because inside of that profit and loss statement, there are certain areas that most businesses really focus on. There's certain times of the year where they really get in and they focus on it. But you at Schooley Mitchell, you focus on it literally all the time. So I'm just going to shoot it right over to you to talk a little bit more about that and about what you do.
Yeah, I mean, if you're a business, and you and I talked about this before we come on the call, like we're coming to we're in the last quarter. So a lot of businesses will be starting to look at the first quarter to, okay, let's refocus, let's realign our business to where we want to be. Let's look at how we can improve sales. Let's how we can decrease costs, because obviously those are the two sides of your profit and loss statement. So what businesses are doing is great. They focus on the things they need to focus, grow the company, reduce the costs. And they tend to do that maybe once in that year, because they've done it. They've set their goals. Let's reduce the costs here. Let's increase the sales here. They'll tweak things as they go along, but they tend to do it once. Whereas when we come in and we're looking at the expense side, the loss side of your profit and loss statement, and we do it quarterly. If for larger clients, we do it monthly. We continue looking. We continue feeding into that bottom line by keeping on top of the vendors who've promised you the best deals possible. But not only that, what we're doing is looking at their competition, what they're selling. We're looking at the technologies in the other businesses, changes, mergers, acquisitions. We're on top of all those time with those specific categories that I'd mentioned: telecom, credit card processing, shipping, waste, e-signature, utilities, and fuel. We're always on top of that, and that's something that businesses don't do when they align their profit and loss at the beginning of the year. That first quarter review, they don't stay on top of it. And even if they are staying on top of it, not necessarily to the level that we can bring to the table, they don't actually know when they're bringing that knowledge to their table what everybody else is paying. And that's a huge piece of information that we have to the table to bring it the first quarter and all the way each quarter moving forward.
You know, and I think, William, that's such a good point, because, a lot of the organizations that I've either worked for or worked with now as a consultant, they'll look at those projections and they look at those pieces, but they don't do the thorough review as the year goes by. And what I see that happens quite often is that there's misses that are out there. And especially right now with how much is changing and how quickly things are changing. I've never heard more discussion over supply side management and distribution and things like that than I hear and am part of at this point in time. But one of the other things that I think is really important for companies to look at and to understand inside of this is what I call the Starbucks effect, which is where you spend a little bit of money here, a little bit of money here, a little bit of money here, but it all adds up to a much bigger number. And you guys find that.
Yeah, I mean, the categories that we look at account for approximately 15 to 20% of a business's revenues. That's money that's been spent. It doesn't have to be spent. And likewise, as you say, if you get used to the norm, you're using, I don't know, say Spectrum and FedEx for your shipping. You're using the same people, and you're continuing just to pay the fees that they're charging you. If you think about it, how often does your rep in any of the categories come knocking on your door and say, by the way, there's a really great deal here. We want you to sign this deal, and we want to cut our profits in half by giving you a better deal. Or, there's a really great deal over there. You're talking about Spectrum. We're Spectrum. If you go over to Frontier, they've got a really good deal. They're never going to tell you that. You're never going to know that unless you go and find it out for yourself. And even at that, you're not going to know what deals that the reps are offering other people, because it's not the same. It's not a level playing field for everybody. Even if you see on the TV these days, the mobile phones, the Spectrums and all the FedExes and the shippings all offering the great deals. But those deals are not, it's not like everybody gets those deals. You have to negotiate your deals. And having knowledge in your corner helps you do that. And as I said, those reps and those companies, they're never going to tell you what the competition's offering. They're never going to say, oh, by the way, we're FedEx. UPS has got a really great new infrastructure, and they're so much cheaper. You guys could benefit from having a better run business with less cost. They're never going to tell you that. That's the difference between doing it yourself and having us in the corner, because that's our job as part of that quarterly review. It's not just about, okay, let's look at our numbers and do something about it. It's let's look at our numbers and keep on top of looking at the numbers, but keep on top of what's happening with the industry that's charging us the numbers. That's an important aspect that businesses just don't have.
Yeah, and you said something in the beginning of that when you were talking about that you represent 15 to 20% of revenue, and I just think about how hard companies work to get 15 and 20% increases.
Yeah.
So
sorry, go ahead.
No, that's okay. Go ahead.
Well, I'm just going to say, 15 to 20%, you might think, well, that's not a huge number, but yeah, it's a huge number. I mean, if I came to any business right now and says, okay, we're going to cut 15 or 20% from your revenues, you're going to be in shock. You're going to be running for cover. So if you're spending that money and we can get you that money back, it's the complete opposite of running for cover. You should be looking for it. You should be saying, great, I've got 15 or 20% profit back that I was losing. And that all adds to the bottom line. As I say, we're here talking about profit and loss. You work hard to make your sales. You work really hard to earn that money. You'll go to a tax accountant monthly, quarterly, yearly, depending on your business's needs, and you pay them for their skills and knowledge to try and keep as much of that hard-earned profit. Why should your expenses be any different? Don't just look at them in the first quarter. Keep looking at them, but don't just look at the numbers. Don't just talk to the reps. Don't just be you speaking to your vendors. Use the knowledge that's outside of your business to help you reduce your cost, because that's knowledge that we bring into a business's portfolio by allowing them to see what's going on with the companies they're spending money on and what they're charging other businesses outside of their organization.
Yeah, and I think the time piece is something that when it comes to P&L management, you can really help organizations with, because is only so much time in the course of the day. So to have somebody who's specialized and then looking at this piece of it, that can then free up somebody's time, who is, whether they're the CFO or they're a controller or working in the accounting side, whatever piece it is inside the organization, to give them time to work on the other pieces of it too.
Yeah, I mean, we absolutely don't take anybody's job. We purely enhance somebody's job. So if you're the procurement director and you're in charge of procurement in some of the areas that we look at, because procurement people look at different aspects of a business. We're not there to do that person out of a job. We're not there to make that person look bad. We're just going to bring knowledge. So if you're a procurement director of a company, wouldn't you love to know what they're charging everybody else? Would you not love to have that knowledge? We bring that knowledge to the table. And as you say, that we come on board and we actually don't cost any money. We don't ask for any fees. There's no ongoing cost. There's no employee cost. There's none of that. We're only going to be asking for payment if we help you reduce your costs for recommendations that you have to accept before we actually move forward with them. And then we'll help you do those implementations by working with your vendors. So it's like having somebody in your corner who's got loads of knowledge that you wouldn't otherwise have, and they're constantly keeping you plugged into that knowledge. It doesn't cost you any money. It literally doesn't cost you any money. It's the opposite. It saves you money because you get 50% of whatever we save. We share it 50-50. That's money that goes directly to your bottom line.
Yeah, and it's interesting. So for people who are perhaps listening for the first time, we did a session a couple of weeks ago about what you can do with that money and where it can go and the different things you can do with it. So go back and take a look at that piece of it. So one of the things that we always do when we talk is we talk about a fun fact about William. And it's been so interesting getting to know you and getting to know more about you, especially with your international background and so on and so forth. So since it is getting that time of year, we're right upon Halloween right now as we're talking today, and we're pretty far into the fall season. I wanted to know, what is a great fall tradition for you?
Yeah, when we were kids growing up in Scotland, we used to carve turnips. That was how we made our lanterns. Nowadays it's pumpkins, and even in Scotland, I think everybody's using pumpkins. But when we were kids, we used to have to dig into it. It was like digging into a brick, which was a turnip, and we did the same thing. We dug into it. We made the lantern's face. We put a candle in it, and we sat it out by our door. Exactly the same. It was just you almost needed a pneumatic drill to get through these things. So that's the fun thing that we did as kids. And because of that, I guess I've developed a loving for the taste of turnip, whether it be mashed or raw, because we used to eat them when we were kids. So as you were carving it, you would eat the raw turnip, and I love to do that. So yeah, it's a little bit different, but I believe it's been more Americanized, as we call it now. But when I was in those dark winter days, I got into the autumn, carving turnips was the way we did it.
I just have to ask, what does a raw turnip taste like?
I guess the only way I could describe it tastes like turnip. It's not like a potato. You know, if you've ever eaten raw potato, it kind of, the textures of a potato is kind of like grainy, and it tastes a lot different from the real thing. Raw turnip tastes like turnip. Interesting.
Kind of like a carrot.
Yes, a raw carrot tastes like a carrot. A raw turnip's very similar. Yes, that's a good way of putting it. Just like a carrot, but it tastes like a turnip.
Thank you, William. You know, it's always such a pleasure to talk with you. And once again, for people who are listening, take a look at the other videos that are on this YouTube channel, and certainly like, comment, share. We would love to hear your feedback on certainly any topic that you would like for us to cover and talk about. We do this every week, and certainly have another exciting piece to expense management to share with this. And it's really helping businesses understand that. I know I come from a side of business that is really focused on the revenue piece of it. So it's been just thrilling for me to listen to this and to learn more about expense management and particularly about expense reduction. So thank you so much, William, for another really interesting session. And now I'm going to throw it over to Tanya for some traffic.